after that, I'm going to a question. Who here worries? Come on, who here worries? Okay, every now and then, maybe less than before, hands are starting to creep up. Okay, all right. Worrying is not one of my go-tos, but I can tell you I can catastrophize with the best of them. Okay? So this morning, I was involved in my morning practice, which happens right after I get up, and that means there's a half an hour of meditation, and then there is some positive intelligence work, some prayer work, and one of my new favorite things that I started doing maybe a month and a half ago maybe, is going onto Instagram and trusting and knowing that the first thing that's going to pop up onto my Instagram feed is Michael Hunter from Upspiral.life. Does anybody know him or follow him? Look him up if you have Instagram, because he is so positive and he really truly is about up-spiraling your life, but not just with platitudes or just plain positivity, with actual neuroscience, with spirituality, with metaphysics. He's fun, he's engaging, and at the end, he always says, write a certain word to remember this in your body, which I totally do because I want to remember most of the stuff that I learned from him and am reminded of by him in my body. So this morning was about worrying, and he was offering 3 steps to stop worrying. And one of the things that he said at the very beginning is, your mind has a way of amplifying fears and creating worst-case scenarios that are far worse than anything you'll ever face. Does that sound familiar? Yeah? The stories we can tell, the imagination that we can power to create all sorts of catastrophes in our mind that will likely never, ever, ever occur, right? He also goes on to say, you suffer more inside your imagination than anything in reality. Okay? Which really made me think about ego. And last week, I talked about ego a little bit, and then the last 2 talks that I've done since coming back, since post-collision, how the ego, one of its jobs is to protect us. Okay? But sometimes it can get overprotective because really it's about protecting itself too. And what it doesn't want to do is it doesn't want to change. Okay? So it actually took me even further back to, I don't know when, but at some point, I think it was Wayne Dyer, I heard talking about ego. And he was talking about, there's this phrase for this acronym ego, edging God out. Okay? Anybody familiar with that? All right. Well, here's the thing, all right? Let's just go like 100% new thought for a moment. If there's only one thing going on, call it whatever you will, how could you possibly edge God out? Ever. Because you are God. I am God. Our experience that we're having is a godly experience, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing he said was, and this was like capital EGO, entertaining God only. And I'm like, oh, I like the sound of that. So I was thinking of this ego versus ego, right? And so the title of my talk today is From Ego to Ego, Expanding Through the Infinite. Now, I realize that Sinzel is all capital letters, but trust me, the first ego is meant to be lowercase, and the second one is meant to be uppercase, right? So this is edging God out versus entertaining God only, when really, because there's only one thing going on, we can only ever really be entertaining God only, okay? But anyway, going to Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of religious science, who wrote The Science of Mind and a whole bunch of other books. The Science of Mind is the main philosophy that I came up with in my ministerial and consciousness studies. He wrote that all thought is creative. Okay? Every single thing we think is creative. But it really depends how much feeling and how much faith you put into it as to how much of that thought you might actually experience. Because some thoughts are fleeting, right? They come and go. And other ones, we're like constantly whirling and swirling them on a hamster wheel loop, right? Those are the ones that are getting more attention. Those are the ones that are getting more focus. But is that how you want to focus your attention? And so as I'm thinking about Ernest Holmes saying all thought is creative, I'm like, yep. And where we are today, it's not so much about thinking as it is about vibration and frequency, right? So what I'm going to add is all frequency is attractive. Attractive. Okay? So whatever you're vibrating at, you're going to attract more of it, right? And so every single moment of every single day, we are not only at choice, but we are choosing. Whether we're aware of it or not, we are choosing how we want to experience our life. And so the work is, as Grace offered before in the share, to choose to focus more intentionally, right? With awareness. Because when we do, like Ernest Holmes also said, a trained mind is far more, or trained thought is far more powerful than untrained. When we focus, when we intend, when we hone our attention onto something with purpose and with design, then chances are we're going to experience more of what it is that we're trying to create, rather than just go around life willy-nilly with anything that's going on in the subjective mind driving the bus. So back to Michael Hunter on this Instagram feed, in this little reel on worrying today, he says, worrying doesn't take away tomorrow's troubles, it just takes away today's peace. Oh, right? So what is it that you're choosing from moment to moment? Because whatever it is that you're experiencing, you've chosen that, right? And I'm including myself here, like I'm in this experience as well. So we need to get really clear on what I'm experiencing. Is it what I want more of, or do I want something different? And guess what? If you want something different, you get to choose. You get to make a different choice. And so the quote that we had in meditation today is from one of my fellow ministerial classmates, Rick Tamlin, who is a phenomenal coach as well. And he says, with awareness comes the power to choose, and with choice comes transformation. So we always are choosing. We always have the power and the capacity to choose. But if we're not aware of it, then chances are that we're not choosing with awareness. We're not choosing as intentionally as we could. Sometimes we hit the mark, and sometimes we miss the mark. And when we miss the mark enough times, we start wondering, oh my God, why is this happening to me all the time? Who's doing this? Who's responsible? Always looking out there for an excuse or someone or something to blame, when really what we need to do is turn within and take personal responsibility for our life, which is based on our choices. Which brings me to these 4 steps that I'm going to give you to stop worrying. Notice what is happening, especially, is it little ego or is it big ego, lowercase ego or uppercase ego that you are creating life from? Label what's happening. And this is just about being curious, okay? There's no judgment here. It's just, this is my experience right now. Because when you add a label to it, it becomes less abstract. Okay? And then you can actually do something about it. And then, and this has probably been one of my biggest lessons this year, as Glenn and I continue going through this year-long program called Relaxed Money, which is all about money and the nervous system, and how it is so important to signal safety to the body as you are feeling things that are disconcerting or destabilizing, and as you are growing into a greater expression of yourself. Like I mentioned last week in my talk that I was going through this amazing Joe Dispenza meditation that I was so looking forward to and was ready to be expanded, and 1 minute in, it was like, danger, 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 too much expansion happening, and the only thing that I could do, aside from cut and run, which would still have been a problem, was to signal my body through a nervous system resetting tool or technique that it was okay for me to feel the feelings I was feeling, to allow those feelings to pass, and then that it was okay to experience something new. It was okay to expand. It was okay to grow. It was okay to change, which is something that our ego doesn't want us to necessarily do, because change can equal threat, right? But the only way that we are going to experience and express more fully as the love we truly are is to grow. And that means we gotta like push and crawl and scream and kick and whatever out of our comfort zone again and again and again and again. Because if we don't, spirit, God, source, love, creativity, the infinite, whatever you want to call it, is never static. It is forever moving. It is forever expressing. It is forever ready and available to unleash itself in, through, as, and around everyone and everything. And the only thing that gets in its way is us. So we get to choose, okay? So you signal the body through different nervous system reset tools. I've shown the butterfly hug. I've done the washing machine on stage as I've been talking just to calm down. That isometric push-up was another one. There are so many different techniques to signal safety to the body that it's okay. What I'm going through, it's okay. What's about to happen. Which then allows you to shift perspective. Because when you feel safe and there's no threat, then, oh my gosh, I can entertain something new. I can think something new. I can believe something new. I can tell a different story because I'm okay and I have the capacity to expand. And then you get to create a new experience as you entertain God only, right? So in the end, I'm going to leave you with a question that actually came out of a Mel Robbins little Instagram reel when she was talking about, I think it was her daughter moving away to college or something, if she was worrying about all of these things that could happen. And then it just hit her. What if it all worked out? Right? Like, what if instead of all of these things that I'm imagining that will probably never happen, what if it just all worked out? And so I feel like that's a question that a lot of us could ask ourselves more frequently, more often. And so I'm going to ask you, what could life look like and feel like if instead of edging God out, which again, not entirely possible, we focused on entertaining God only, and we chose peace, and we chose life, and we chose safety, and we chose affirmation, and we choose to live with the certainty that love is our true nature from one now moment to the next and the next and the next. Thank you, and so it is.